This is Talk the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. I'm joined still by Russell Quirk. I'm joined also now by Macer Gifford. He's a former British volunteer fighter, both in Ukraine and indeed in Syria. And he joins us to talk about what the NATO Secretary General has been saying. A very good morning to you, Macer.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. So you're someone who's unlike me. I'm an armchair general. You've actually been on the front line in the trenches twice now. But interesting comments from the NATO Secretary General on a visit to Britain and a speech at Chatham House, where he said that people in Britain had better learn to speak Russian if the government doesn't ramp up defence spending. He wants defence spending to go up to 5% of GDP. It's currently at 2.3%. It's going to slowly ramp up to 2.5%. Ambition, we're told, to get to 3% sometime in the next decade. But he's saying no, and it's something Donald Trump's White House has been saying as well. We need to be looking at basically, 3.5% defence, 1.5% cybersecurity, border controls and security and the like. But we really need to ramp that up much sooner and much, much more. Is he right?
He's absolutely right. We've underfunded the UK military, successive governments have, for a very, very long time. We've eroded their capabilities. We've hollowed out the UK's ability not only to defend itself, but its resilience to actually be immune to terrible things like a terrorist attack, as well as a conventional attack from a peer state.
We're told our forces are among the best in the world. Our elite forces, the SAS, SBS and others, are up there with the best. Is that true? But we don't have the men and women on the ground.
Absolutely, that is absolutely the case. We've got a lot of talent in not only in the MOD, within the SAS, etc. We also have it within MI5, MI6. We've got a lot of resilience there in terms of the people that we've got. But in terms of the resources we're allocating them, it's just not enough. And we do need to be investing in innovative new systems to stop the new threats that are emerging.
And there are a lot of new threats, we are being told. It's not just obviously what's the threat from Vladimir Putin in Ukraine, but other NATO allies. And of course, we have, under Article 5 of NATO Treaty, a duty to protect those allies, whether it's Finland or the Baltic states or others. But we also have got the rising threat of Xi Jinping in China and the threat to Taiwan, and indeed the rising threat of Donald Trump's White House and the American general sort of view that, Europe, it's up to you to defend Europe rather than us having to provide the funds and the weaponry for that. Do you think the White House stance on this is a reasonable one?
I don't. I think they've gone about it in an incredibly bad way. The argument that Europe has not done enough to defend itself is absolutely correct, and successive American governments have been arguing that for a long time, and we just haven't been hearing it. We have made our bed, and we're lying in it at the moment. So there is a long way to go. But as you correctly said, certainly by 2030, we need to have a credible force, because the world is becoming much more dangerous. China wishes to take back Taiwan. It's got other
they've stated that they will. They've stated that they will. They're what, 8% of their GDP currently on their military? I think that's a message.
Yeah, of course. And Russia has already invaded Ukraine. It's already shown its through its utterances and through its actions in places like Georgia, etc. It is going out of its way to expand its borders. And so some of the most dangerous states around the world are watching this, and they're learning from it. And with our own forces hollowed out, unless we create that resilience within our own country, unless we make that investment, we will become easy targets. And that's what Mark is trying to say.
Okay, you're saying easy targets. And as Russell Quirk was saying earlier, no one really thinks, Russia is going to, suddenly land helicopters or boats on the shores of Calais. I mean, they could. Obviously, we're unprotected right now from men without passports, let alone rifles, arriving from Calais, where they wave them off on the shore, the French police. But we're not going to be invaded by Russia, people will say.
We're not going to be invaded by Russia. We've got the English Channel has defended us for 1,000 years, and we do have there's 1,000 miles of Europe that Russia has to push through before it gets to us. But either way, what happens abroad affects us. We are an interconnected world. We're an interconnected country. And this new policy of Russia of simply forcing its way into countries in Eastern Europe, Ukraine, it aspires to take the Baltics, other places as well. It will simply invade these places, put up a ring of steel, and then hide behind its nuclear weapons. And this encroachment not only undermines our values, because we're supposed to be Europeans, we're supposed to be defending ourselves and defending our sovereignty.
Yes.
But our economy, it's going to absolutely wreck our economy if China is allowed free reign in Taiwan, if Russia is allowed free reign around the world too, and if it goes even worse to places like Iran, etc. So we are in an interconnected world. We do have to take this seriously, and if we don't, we will suffer, and we will suffer badly.
And this is the thing, the impact that we saw on the invasion of Ukraine. Okay, some people say it was sanctions on Russia of oil and gas, but actually a lot of it was that we couldn't get wheat, sunflower oil, fertilizer for our own crops out of Ukraine because of that invasion. And again, we rely on so many interconnected trading routes, economic routes, and so that's where Taiwan becomes a big issue, because virtually everything we buy is coming from China. Now, they might want to continue to sell to us, but if we have blockades, the microchips and the like, that are available from Taiwan, there is a lot that perhaps we just don't realise. Many people don't realise that is interconnected. We need to have, safe passage on the seas for our economy to survive. In which case, spending 5% of GDP on defence is a drop in the ocean compared to the hit to our economy, like we've seen in recent years from lockdown and from the Ukraine war. 5% of GDP is going to count as nothing compared to those hits.
It's an insurance policy. As you are prepared to insure your car, insure other high value assets of your own, the UK, if we inject money and we focus on training, if we build capability, we are inoculating ourselves against future crises. And the point is that if a crisis comes along and we are not prepared for it, we have to throw everything at it. And we have to spend hundreds of billions of pounds. We have to divert resources away from the economy to suddenly start dealing with a terrible problem that will also cost lives, innocent British lives. So the point is that we inoculate ourselves against that crisis by investing in defence, doing it in a structured and layered way, and most importantly, as we look to the future and we start building new relationships post-Brexit, we start growing out and we start aspiring that our country might start growing again, we need to be focused on defence. It's a major part of that.
Absolutely. Macer Gifford, former British volunteer fighter in Ukraine and in Syria, thank you so much for joining us. Really briefly, Russell Quirk, coming back on what you said there.
I still think Mark Rutte's comments are ridiculous in terms of the whole Russian thing, but notwithstanding that, let's just be clear, increasing to 5% of GDP is another £60 billion per annum. Where's it coming from? Tell you where it should come from. Get rid of net zero, get rid of all our asylum costs, get rid of carbon capture, and we can pay for it.
Yay! I'm all favour all of that. Answers on a postcard. How would you deal with it?